Okay, Senator Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Magnus, thank you for being here. I had a few questions for you, but Senator Bennett's questions have answered at least one of my questions, which was whether or not you were unwilling to answer yes or no questions, or whether or not you were just selective in answering yes or no questions. I've come to the conclusion that you're just very selective on the questions that you're going to answer yes or no to, because both Senator Young and Senator Bennett asked very easy questions to say yes or no to. You struggled to come to the conclusion that there is a crisis on our border, which I found fascinating. Millions of Americans, literally millions upon millions of Americans, have come to the same conclusion that I have and that Senator Young has, and that, frankly, I think even the administration is now coming to the same conclusion, that there is a crisis on our southern border. When we have 200,000 folks illegally crossing our border in just July, more than 1 million in the last fiscal year, there is a crisis on our border. Why admitting that there is a crisis on our border is a problem, I don't fully appreciate. When under the administration, finally, after demonizing every single action of the Trump administration as it relates to the border, it is apparent to me that when the Department of Homeland Security reinstates the Remain in Mexico policy, it is because there is a crisis at the southern border. So I'm going to ask you, Mr. Magnus, just for clarification, with the reinstatement of the policy, with 1 million plus people crossing our border, with more than 200,000 just in July, with the actions taken against the border agents, is there a crisis at our border?
Senator, thank you for the question. But if I might just make the observation that perhaps as a nation and as a group of even electeds, if we spent a little less time debating on what the terminology is and perhaps a little more time trying to fix a broken system and working together, we could address what I've already acknowledged is one of the most serious problems that we face right now in our nation.
Well, Mr. Magnus, this is frankly where both Republicans and Democrats come to the same conclusion, that there is a crisis at our border. This is the one area of many areas within the political spectrum that we'd like to see some kind of uniformity and people working together and acknowledging the concerns that we have. But words have meaning. We are living in a time where we're trying to find a way to erase and then redefine words. But the fact that there's a crisis, there's just a crisis. Number one. Number two, when Rodney Scott, the former chief of the Border Patrol, who worked for both President Trump and President Biden, says that the administration is abusing its authority as it relates to paroles, I'll ask you, with over 30,000 released via parole, and so many hundreds of thousands more just released into our communities, do you believe that the administration is abusing their immigration authority?
Senator, I appreciate the question. And obviously, this issue of immigration authority, how it's being used, is something that would be very important to me if confirmed for this position. I'm coming into this, obviously, as someone from the outside. My intention would be to learn as much as I can, talk to different parties involved who maybe have very different perspectives on this, learn what I can, and then share that information with those above me.
Well, let me just say it this way. When our American public is watching the reckless action in Afghanistan, where we are trying to figure out what the vetting process was for those folks arriving here, and we are thankful that those who assisted our soldiers in Afghanistan, we want to have the folks who deserve to be here from Afghanistan, and yet the vetting process was rushed because of the arbitrary nature of the departure, that creates one concern from an immigration standpoint. This exacerbates the situation when you add on top of those concerns for the average American seeing more than 1 million folks come into our country illegally, which is about 20% of all of the citizens in the great state of South Carolina. So you can imagine my concerns that are shared by millions of Americans around this country as it relates to what we're doing on our border and what we're not doing on our border is very concerning. Thank you.